Welcome, focused learners, to this explainer. We're so absolutely thrilled to have you with us today because we are unpacking what has to be one of the most dizzying, high-stakes geopolitical timelines in recent global history. Today, we're going to trace the incredibly dramatic post-premiership events of Pakistan's former leader Imran Khan. We'll be looking at everything from the really tumultuous days of 2022 all the way up to some pretty sobering updates in August 2026. It's a massive story of power, peril, and profound legal battles, and we're going to break the whole shebang down chronologically, clearly, and completely.
Okay, let's dive into this. How exactly did a prime minister go from leading a nation of over 200 million people to surviving a harrowing assassination attempt to ultimately navigating a 14-year prison sentence? It is a staggering sequence of events, honestly. And to really grasp the sheer velocity of this downfall, we need to map out the facts step by step. So here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the political crisis that ousted him. Then the assassination attempt, the Al-Qadir trust case, the subsequent arrests and convictions, and finally, the prison and health crisis.
Let's start with Section 1, ousted, the political crisis, and the catalyst of April 2022.
You know, to really understand the chaos, we've got to rewind everything back to the spring of 2022. There was a severe systemic constitutional crisis where the parliament was actually briefly dissolved. Then the Supreme Court stepped in, parliament was reinstated, and Imran Khan was ousted via a no-confidence vote in April. While Khan fiercely rejected this outcome, he framed it as a totally illegitimate change of government. This direct clash catalyzed the massive Azadi March 2 in October, which was the sprawling, mobilized protest movement demanding early elections. And it was exactly this highly charged environment that set the physical stage for the shocking events we saw in November.
Moving right along to Section 2, the assassination attempt in Wazirabad on November 3, 2022.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer chaos of that particular day. So while Khan was actually giving a speech to his supporters from a container-mounted truck in Punjab, gunfire just erupted. Authorities report that 6 shots were fired using a 9mm pistol. The human toll was really tragic. One supporter of Khan's political party, the PTI, was killed, and 9 other people were injured, including Senator Faisal Javed Khan. Imran Khan himself was struck in the right shin and thigh. He was quickly rushed to Shaukat Kanu Memorial Cancer Hospital in Lahore, and that's where doctors found bullet fragments lodged in his legs along with a fractured tibia.
Now, in the aftermath of this, 2 fiercely competing narratives emerged. The arrested suspect, Mohammed Naveed, who was later sentenced to life in prison, by the way, confessed on video. He claimed he acted entirely alone, like a lone wolf, driven by religious grievances. He specifically cited music being played during the azan at the march and made allegations of blasphemy. On the flip side, Imran Khan vehemently rejected this lone wolf theory. He alleged that the attack was actually a highly coordinated assassination plot orchestrated by his political and military rivals, specifically naming his successor, Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, among others. As focused learners, our goal here isn't to validate one claim over the other, right? It's to understand that this deep divergence in narratives massively accelerated the polarization across the entire country.
And the magnitude of this event, it was felt instantly, all around the globe. International condemnation was incredibly swift and unanimous. From the White House to world leaders like Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who stated firmly that violence has no place in politics, in any democracy, or in our society. It served as a really stark reminder of that fragile line between political discourse and physical violence on the global stage.
Which brings us to Section 3. The Al-Qadir trust case, where we're following the money back to 2019.
While Khan was facing these very real physical threats, a huge legal storm was brewing in the background. 190 million British pounds? I mean, that is a staggering financial figure. And this exact sum, which was seized by the United Kingdom's National Crime Agency from property tycoon Malik Riaz, sits right at the very heart of the legal storm that would ultimately engulf the former prime minister.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it maps the dense flow of that money. It's almost like a giant puzzle. Let's look at the steps that Pakistan's National Accountability Bureau investigated. Step 1. The UK's National Crime Agency seizes that £190 million from Malik Riaz. Step 2. In December 2019, then Prime Minister Khan's cabinet actually approves a confidential settlement with the UK agency.
Then, step 3 is where the controversy totally peaks. According to investigators, these funds, which were intended to be returned straight to the Pakistani National Treasury, were instead deposited into a Supreme Court account specifically designated to pay off Malik Riaz's own entirely separate fines in a different land case. And finally, step 4, in the weeks that followed, the Al-Qadir Trust was formed, and Riaz allegedly donated land to this trust for a university. The core accusation by the authorities here was that this land was given as a massive kickback in exchange for protecting Riaz's repatriated funds.
But, the case itself remained super highly contested. Fast forward a bit to January 2025, and a late-breaking development adds yet another layer of complexity. Sayed Zulfikar Bukhari, who is a close aide to Khan, publicly claimed he was heavily pressured to testify against the former premier. He alleged threats to his family, loss of property, and financial coercion, insisting the whole case was politically motivated. And Imran Khan, speaking right from behind bars, corroborated Bukhari's claims. But regardless of the defense, the legal machinery was already well in motion.
Entering Section 4, Arrests and Convictions, the true climax of the legal saga. This climax just builds and builds into an unrelenting cycle of arrests. On May 9, 2023, Khan was dramatically arrested by rangers outside the Islamabad High Court. This immediately sparked widespread violent riots across the country. The whiplash continued when, literally just 2 days later, on May 11, the Supreme Court ruled that specific arrest was actually unlawful, granting him temporary release. But that reprieve absolutely didn't last. By November 13, 2023, he was arrested yet again by the National Accountability Bureau, specifically regarding that Al-Qadir Trust case. The trials proceeded while he was in custody, leading inevitably to January 17, 2025. Because on that day, the formal conviction dropped. 14 years. A massive, historic sentence for the former prime minister, standing as the direct culmination of the Al-Qadir Trust investigation. So the crucial point is that he was not the only one facing severe consequences. His wife, Bushra Bibi, who was also named as a key figure in the Al-Qadir Trust, was convicted right alongside him. She was handed a 7-year prison sentence for her alleged involvement in the case. So suddenly, the leadership of the PTI and Khan's own family were firmly behind bars.
Finally, Section 5, Prison and Health Crisis, bringing us up to August 2026.
This sobering reality brings us to the summer of 2026. And by this point, concerns were mounting not just over Khan's legal status, but his actual physical survival. On August 20, 2026, following a massive public uproar regarding reports of his rapidly deteriorating health, the Supreme Court ordered a medical intervention. The visuals from that day were just stark. Heavily barricaded roads, legions of police officers standing guard, as a 73-year-old jailed ex-leader was briefly transferred to Shafa International Hospital for evaluation. But it was only a very temporary reprieve. Within hours, he was returned straight back to the confines of his heavily guarded prison cell. Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to wrap up today's explainer. We've watched a man rise to the very pinnacle of political power, survive the trajectory of a bullet, and become entangled in a sprawling web of high-stakes financial litigation resulting in a 14-year sentence. As he battles a severe health crisis behind the barricades of a prison wall, what does the future actually hold for Imran Khan? And by extension, for the deeply divided nation of Pakistan? The timeline is far from over for sure, and understanding these structural chronological facts is your absolute key to following whatever comes next in this incredible global story. Keep learning, keep questioning, and thank you so much for joining us.